Hey, it's Brad Parker, Crystal Palace fan, and you are listening to the Drunkard United Football Show. It's a parade.
You're damn right it's a parade. Welcome back, Mr. Graham.
Yeah, thanks.
Been a long summer.
It has been a long summer. It's been a mostly good summer, but obviously there are a few things that have gone awry.
Well, I hate myself, so I record a whole nother podcast, and I end up having 1 week off of recording.
Nice.
Last week. Let's start the show.
Born in the land of Bowie, Maryland. Bred to be a fan of fucking Everton. Punch you in the eye and drink your rye. Sam Houston.
Sam Houston?
Arsenal fans have another Sam. AKA the fucking Gooner Graham. Stump of a lord. Look straight in shorts. Sam Grammy.
Sam Graham.
Fucking United! Fucking United!
Hello and welcome to the DU Football Show, a completely biased preview of the newly promoted teams as told by two common American schmucks. I am your host, Sam Houston, and across the way from me, a man who needs a vacation from his vacation.
Goddamn right I do.
Mr. Samuel Graham. How you doing, good sir?
Bro, it was rough.
Oh, by the way, sorry, Russ.
Yeah.
You got to remember to do that.
It was rough.
I mean, it's the preseason for all of us, right?
Yeah. Getting back in the swing of things, showing up 20 pounds overweight like Ronaldo Phenomeno used to do. Sounds good to me.
And, of course, on the ones and twos, Producer Mel. How you doing over there, Producer Mel?
I am remembering how to press buttons so you don't have to retrain me.
Yeah, well, I mean, apparently you couldn't get the buttons right when we did the sound check there, old out of order, and didn't think have any faith in me to press a button.
Yeah, but only people that pay for it know that.
And you can do that at patreon.com/DU Football Shows. $5 a month, and you get all the extra shit, including sound check, which is a real sound check. And Mel just kind of Stevie Wondering the buttons.
It's the next fucking segment is when you get to do.
Yeah, but I'm a good whore. It was mentioned, so I did it.
Fucking preseason. We're recording at the DU Public House just outside the nation's capital. You can check us out wherever you get your podcast. And, of course, streaming live every single Monday night, except for the preseason, because Zooms and shit like that. Should people want to chat with us, Mr. Graham, tell them how they can get in touch.
Absolutely. It's dufootballshow@gmail.com to get in touch via email and at dufootballshow on all of these social medias that we are still a part of.
There you go. And you, well, yeah, because old Xer got X'd right at the end of last season. I was like, you know what? Every time I go looking for footy information, then all I get is like Marjorie Taylor Greene quotes. And I'm like, I'm just here for the fucking footy, guys. Come on,
because
man.
it keeps you engaged, bro, you know? You and your alt-right persona.
It engaged me right the fuck off the app is what it did. Or, as I always like to say, Mr. Graham, you can Zoom your happy ass in here, which is the case of our two guests tonight. Allow me to say, Mr. Graham, first father-son team we've had on our show before.
Nice.
So we have...
That's awesome. The son's of age, right?
Yes.
Careful.
Yeah.
You never know. Fucking hell. You never know.
He's going to Vegas to work, I think.
I'll be like Lewis Black. Don't say fuck. Don't say fuck.
Well, in Soundcheck, when you weren't here, I was giving him the lowdown of exactly who we are and what kind of fucking train wrecks we are.
All right, good.
But we have Ken and Chris. Guys, how you doing today?
Pretty good. How are you?
Excellent. Excellent. Please, both of you, let us know who you support.
So I'm Ken. I've been a Sunderland fan for over 50 years, so that obviously puts me as the dad rather than the son. I was born in Gateshead, which is right in the middle of Newcastle United country. So by all rights, I should have been a mag, as we call them. But I had more sense, so I'm a Sunderland fan. I now live on Kent Island, Maryland.
Nice.
For the past 12 years.
And Chris?
Awesome.
I'm Chris from Annapolis, Maryland, and I was kind of forced into Sunderland since I was born 33 years ago by my dad there. So,
you know what, Sam? Just what the Premier League needs again. a couple of sad Mackham bastards. Sam and myself both work in the wine and spirit industry and both have a deep, passionate love for all things distilled spirits. So as the red-blooded Americans we are, we vow to have a drink in our hand throughout this show and every single show. Mr. Graham, what are we drinking today?
So we've got an interesting one, actually, from the J.A. Frey and Company Distillery. This is Brixeur. It's a rye whiskey finished in Pinot Noir casks. It is a single barrel, and I'm sure somewhere on here it is barrel strength. There we go, 95 proof, which would give you 47.5% by volume. The first barrel is obviously a New American Oak cask, has to be a rye whiskey in general. The second barrel is a Pinot Noir cask, and they transfer to a third barrel, which is another Pinot Noir cask.
And to my understanding, that winery, which is in the Willamette Valley, that is French oak that they're using for their Pinot barrels as well.
Oh, excuse me. No, it is proof down, actually. That says bottle strength, not barrel strength.
Got it. No problem. Very good. It is fucking lovely. The peppery spice of the rye still shines through, but there's a really kind of decent mouthfeel to this. Like it's a fairly thick whiskey, but the Pinot shines. A little bit of dryness.
Yeah, a little bit of dryness. There's actually a little bit of freshness up front. You know, Pinot Noir, especially from the New World, has that kind of green pepper snap to it. That's delicious. I like that a lot.
There is no
and
price.
it is girthy.
Yeah, there's no price to get it girthy. Good
Thank
word.
you. Appreciate
There's no price
First dick joke of the season, 48 seconds in.
Yeah. No price for it because it's not available yet on the East Coast. So, but that's brand that my friend brought back for me. She was out there celebrating her birthday, went out to the Willamette for a little while and was like, I'm bringing this back for Sam. And I was like, I am not going to stop you because
That's very good.
Well, and you know who it is. I trust her taste. Like she's got very good taste. So
nice.
All right. Producer Mo, what do you think of the whiskey?
It is delightful. It is big. It's not hot. And it's got a nice mouthfeel, almost creamy a little bit.
It's the rye shines through. So it's got that black pepper spice thing that you expect a rye to have. And the Pinot barrel doesn't kill it out. It just really.
I typically am not a fan of still wine finished
you've
whiskeys.
said that before.
Typically,
Yeah.
They usually present very, very hot, and I don't like it. This actually complements it very well.
Yeah, not hot at all.
I
Not
don't
hot at all.
have any desire to put ice or anything over this. I like it neat.
I'd like to just for the experiment, but you're right. I mean, I'm perfectly happy with it neat, 100%.
Now had it both ways. Honestly, it's better. It's better neat. And you know me, I'm typically a big cube guy, but I found that it's actually better neat.
Yeah,
Nice.
Some things are better without ice.
And Mr. Graham, what should we always do?
Always remember to drink responsibly, of course.
Very good. I love it. Let's cheers it up.
I got the best one, as usual.
It's the start of the season, and you two are already fucking getting it up on me. You see what
Preseason, right? We're practicing.
Boys, you see what I deal with here. I'm a kind-hearted man that writes a show and does all these wonderful things, and this is the way they fucking treat me. So anyways, each year we start the season, and we want to talk about the promoted sides. And today we are going to discuss a club that many that are kind of new to the Premier League have no idea who they are. But
Potentially. We all had nothing to do during COVID.
that's true. A lot of us probably watch that show, and we're going to talk a little bit about that show too. But this is one of the biggest clubs in England. This is a massive fucking club in a massive city, and they have a massive fucking rivalry that a lot of people haven't had the pleasure to see in quite a while, other than one lonely FA Cup match. You know. That the home team did half their stadium for their rivals in black
very
and white.
strange,
Very
that, yeah.
weird. Very
Selling hospitality packages to the away fans.
And we did a 6 o'clock in the morning show with a whole bunch of magpies that wanted nothing to do with us until they were winning. They were like
they were all the tight butts. Let's say
very squeaky bum time, no doubt about it. But that is Sunderland Football Club. So. Ken, you already kind of said it. You grew up in Newcastle. You've been a supporter your whole life. And Chris, you hinted at the fact that, kind of born into it. But talk a little bit about your guys' love for the club and Sunderland and what it means to you.
Yeah, so if I can kick off, I actually wasn't a Sunderland fan all my life, so I'm putting even more years on me
Okay.
now. My dad was a Newcastle fan, but I decided very early I wasn't going to follow in his footsteps, and he didn't force me. So at the time, I kind of followed, like a lot of Americans do, I followed the big clubs. So I became a Man United fan, because that was the days of George Best, Bobby Charlton, Dennis Law. So until I was kind of about 12 years old, I was a Man United fan. And then Sunderland won the FA Cup, where they were in the second division, which was the biggest thing probably that had happened in English football almost forever. Still talked about now.
Mm-hmm.
It would be the mighty Leeds United, who were like one of the best clubs in Europe at the time. And that kind of caught the imagination of a lot of people, including me. And that was 1973. So I thought, oh, this seems like a bandwagon that's starting to roll. And that was the last thing we won.
Nice. Don't feel bad about that. We're both DC sports fans.
Yeah.
So until the last 4 years or 5 years, whatever it is, between the Nationals and the Caps, we have won fuck all as well.
Yeah, pretty much. Absolutely nothing.
The last time the Commanders did something, I was 5.
It's the question that certainly comes to mind for me right off the bat is so is it that Ken truly hated his father and wanted to do something to hurt him, or does Ken truly hate his son and wanted to do something to hurt him and make him support Sunderland?
I'd like to
you gotta wonder the dynamics of the relationship.
I'd like to get to the heart of it and find out who hurt Ken. Is what happened.
My dad was a fine man. He just had some weaknesses. The biggest one was being a Newcastle fan.
Your stadium, your colors, your nickname. If y'all want to get into any of those, if you have any special memories as well, especially at the stadium, we're familiar with it. We've been following for a long time, but for our listeners, please tell us where you play, what you wear. Maybe don't say it too loud in case Kurt Zuma's lurking around. But tell us what your nickname is.
So the nickname is the Black Cats, which has only been since 1997, I think it was. Because up until then, we were known as the Rokerites. And that's because the old stadium was located in part of Sunderland called Roker, and the ground was called Roker Park. So when we built a new stadium in 97, the Stadium of Light, which was where we are now, we basically had to change the nickname. And there's an old story that goes back to the 1800s, whereby there was some guy who was in some military group that got frightened by a black cat. And the football club, which was around since 1879, always had a black cat kind of as a mascot, but only officially used it as a nickname, as I say, in 1997, which was really when Chris became a Sunderland fan. We'd actually bought season tickets for the first season at the Stadium of Light. And just before the season started, I actually found out I was being transferred to Miami with my company. So I had to trade in my season tickets. We actually got the deposit back, and we got tickets to the kind of the pre-season games. So that was Chris's first kind of encounter with Sunderland.
Okay, nice.
So, Chris, for you, getting to as a younger man, getting to see Sunderland play, tell us about that. Like, how that bring you in as a supporter?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the tough things kind of early on was the Premier League wasn't really on back then. I mean, it was kind of difficult to watch them besides us going back. I mean, it was really hard to follow them the first, 10 years we were over in the US. I don't know when kind of Fox Sports and all that came out that, that kind of had the games on. But it was really difficult until kind of the late, I guess, 2000s that it kind of became more prevalent. And that's really when I picked it up. And I mean, they were in the Premier League, I guess, from 2008 until 2017. So That's kind of really when I watched them and obviously saw the downfall through that.
We're going to kind of get into that as well, but not that, I mean, we've already kind of hinted at it, but it needs to be discussed. Who is your rival and what is the name of your derby?
I don't think you should even say it. I don't know. I don't think they're worth talking about. I don't know. Do you have a name for them, Ken?
There's many names. Skunks, barcodes. I'm trying to keep
barcodes is good.
Fairly civil.
Drunken horse punchers.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's happened.
Fist fight your teammates.
That's happened as well.
But yeah, I mean, it's a very fierce rivalry. I'd probably say it's one of the fiercest in kind of in England, because in a lot of rivalries, like in Liverpool, Manchester, London, etc., the clubs are in the same city. So you've got people who, kind of decide who their team's going to be, and it can be within the same family. Whereas Newcastle and Sunderland are like 13 mile apart, which is close enough to be, really vicious about each other. But it's far enough away that people, they've even got different accents. You can tell someone talking from Newcastle apart from someone talking from Sunderland. And there's a lot of hatred there when the games are played. The kickoff times are dictated by the police, so that fans can't go drinking beforehand. So typically they'll start at 12 o'clock. Sometimes on a Sunday, and the fans always get control in terms of transport. They're not allowed to just decide how they get there themselves. They get escorted everywhere they go. It's really it's something to say when those games are played, to be honest.
We've talked about it multiple times on the show, as far as the fiercest rivalries in all of England. It's in the first hand. If you're listing off your first five, there's no doubt about it. It's real hatred.
Absolutely. And the other piece to that too is, as you said, with like London teams, for instance, besides kind of Millwall and West Ham, I guess, a lot of times you end up working with a lot of these people, or you have family members that are supporters of your rival team. And so you're kind of more around these people on a regular basis. Yeah. Kind of harder to beat their nose in under a bridge.
Both of our rivalries. The North London and the Merseyside are massive derbies, but they're in cities where literally it's neighbor and neighbor. Like you go to Anfield, and right along the side of the stadium, there's the red door, blue door, all the way down the one part of the street. Like, whereas in this instance, it's two cities that are close enough to each other to know where they are, and far enough away to really hate each other.
And also two one club cities.
Yeah.
So everyone in those cities is very passionate about that club. Yeah. You know what I mean?
It's kind of a funny story that kind of underlines the rivalry to some extent is one of the best known chants that Sunderland fans have relates to a player that was really one of the worst players I've seen playing for Sunderland, but he became a legend because his brother played for Newcastle. Now, his brother was like a ball-playing centre-back who was quite cultured. He actually got a few caps for England. His brother, who played for Sunderland, was a bustling centre-forward who had no skill whatsoever, but always put in 110% and, would take out anyone who kind of went into a 50-50 challenge with him. He was really mean. So the crowd loved him, and they developed this chant, which went... And the guy was Lee Howie, his brother was Steve Howie. So the chant, and people still singing to this day, was Lee Howie, Lee Howie, Lee Howie, your brother is a cunt. And people just kind of have that singing all over the place. And Steve Howie, who actually, after he retired, did a lot of charity work. And he story, I think you can probably Google and find it on YouTube. He was doing a charity event in some remote village in Africa. And very small village, and he was being interviewed, and they asked him about how he got involved and everything, and he said all of a sudden from a voice in the background came Lee Howie, Lee Howie, Lee Howie.
I love that. Brilliant one.
I love that.
Well, and Chris, I mean, honestly, you're kind of lucky in the regards of that derby, because for the most part, up until the relegation year, you guys were owning that derby for the most part.
It was one of only 5 games, or 2 of only 5 games they would win those seasons.
Pretty much.
Towards the end there, as they were flirting with relegation for a while.
Yeah.
If you ever get a Newcastle fan on here, just say to them 6 in a row. They'll know exactly what you mean.
No, we have one, and yes, we do bust his balls all the time about it. we did that morning, and he looked right at us, and he goes, "Not in here," because we were in their bar.
Yeah.
We even had for halftime. If we had two plans, there was the plan if Newcastle was up, and there was the plan if
we
Newcastle
wrote 2
was
shows,
losing. And
just in case.
The plan that in Newcastle was up. So what we did was I put on my Jordan Pickford shirt, and I just barely put my arms out of the sleeves, and he wore a horse mask, and I tried to smack him, which went over fine because they were winning. Let's go ahead and get into a little bit of the recent past. It has been a long journey to get back here. And for those of us during COVID, we remember the Sunderland Till I Die show. And what a lot of people don't realize, this was a big club, a one club city, that a team that has a stadium that's got the size to support a Premier League club. And yet somehow it was so badly mismanaged that it all just fell apart and dropped all the way down to League One. And it was a good long haul there in League One for you guys for a while before you came back up. Why don't you share a little bit about, the double relegation and then fighting your way back up? And it was the last couple of seasons that you've had being back in the championship and finally getting yourselves back up to the Prem.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Netflix show really sums it up, that just how bad it was. I mean, those couple of seasons were terrible, and even the few after that in League One, it was kind of just it was so grim. It was just like you're signing these guys that nobody's ever heard of, and really, they're just it's kind of nobody's. They're signing from lower league teams.
Or the big names, or the big names you bought.
I was
weren't
just about to
playing,
say,
like Jack Rodwell.
I was just about to say that.
Sitting on $100K a week doing fuck all.
Right, and then other things that the club had wasted their money on, like they had that cryogenic fleshlight or whatever that Jack Rodwell was just fucking at the training ground every goddamn day, like for £200,000 or whatever it costs for that. It's absurd. Mm-hmm. Some of the waste that was going on.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of the story of it. Yeah,
I mean, Ellis Short, the American owner, for a lot of those years, put a lot of money into the club. They signed some big players who either were signed based on potential, like Jack Rodwell, who never fulfilled his potential, or guys who were at the end of their career and were just looking for one last payday, and they had no affinity with the club whatsoever. Didn't understand what it was about. There's probably a point in time where the club was very close to going bust.
One of the I think the hardest part of watching that show and knowing who that club was not just the people get relegated from the Premier League. It happens. Now, it doesn't happen to your club or my club, but it happens to people.
It doesn't ever happen to our club.
The producer gives me a middle finger. But it happens to clubs. I think the more tragic story was watching the absolute collapse of just being a dead last team and completely falling apart in the championship. Just as a neutral, you're just like, man, this fucking sucks for them.
Oh, yeah.
Now, Chris, how many years did you guys end up being in League One?
So I think it was 4 we ended up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was kind of mixed results. I mean, they made the playoff the first season, and I think you were there, right, Dad? The playoff final?
Yeah, I went to that one. Yeah, 4 times at Wembley to that point. Never saw Sunderland not only win, but never saw them score a goal.
Jesus.
Yeah, so, and then the second and third seasons weren't great. I don't know if they made the playoffs again, but then there's kind of the COVID year in there too, and then year 4, I mean, they had a kind of a better season, but still wasn't great. And then they kind of got better as the season went on with the new manager and Alex Neil. If you want to add anything that can.
And then up into the championship, the one thing I noticed with the team, it never really seemed like they were ever really in relegation problem. It seemed like once they got there, they were like, okay, this is where we belong again. What happened before is not happening again.
Yeah, I think that was kind of surprising in the first year, kind of how well they did. I mean, they made the playoff and lost to Leeds in year one in the championship, and I think going into that, it didn't seem like they had the squad to do it. But I think that was the year they had Amad Diallo from Man United, and he really just shocked the championship and how good he was. I'd love to have him back, but I don't think that's happening. But
no, probably not.
Yeah.
I don't think so as well.
Yeah, so I think that the first year was great, and then I think year two they kind of reverted back a little bit. I think again started well, but then kind of fell apart second half of the season. So it was kind of mixed results, and then I think getting into this past season, I mean it was kind of a really strong start, slowed down kind of near the second half of the year, and they're really in fourth for the last 6 months of the season.
Well, that also didn't help that it was yet again another season like the season prior where there were a couple, 2-3 teams that just seemed to be running away with it. The year prior, it was Ipswich and Leicester, and then last year it was Leeds and Burnley just seemingly kind of
distancing themselves from the rest of the pack.
And you're looking at the last couple of years in a row where like third or fourth place, their point total would have normally just gotten you an automatic promotion.
Right. Well, and the other piece though too, if you don't mind, I am going to kind of combine 5 and 6.
Go for it
here, because we're sort of talking about it already with that run of form that sort of stalls in the middle of the season. That kind of happens when you have a young squad. Young players are by nature inconsistent. And now it again speaks to what happened before under, was it Niall Quinn was the chairman for ages. And you had Roy Keane as your manager, and then Paolo Di Canio for a while, and all of those things. And you were signing stars, as Ken said earlier, kind of at the end of their rope, at the end of their careers, and wasting boatloads of money on them. Started sort of the collapse. To now, the philosophy seems to be younger players and a system with the manager Régis Lebris, and it looks like. With that comes inconsistency is part of the problem. So it was just finding a way to get those players to not have that slump, essentially, and then to close the deal, right? I mean, that's the hardest thing for a young player to do, is to get over the finish line, right? It's the hardest thing to learn in a career. A lot of experienced players don't know how to fucking do it. Yeah. So can you tell us about Régis Lebris and what he's brought to the club, his kind of philosophy, and why his last name is the French version of a circumcision?
Yeah, I think part of the kind of the in between there, the different seasons in League One and the Championship was the change in ownership and Kerry Louis Dreyfus coming in and kind of just completely changing the philosophy of the club to that youth movement. And I think it was, they're no longer going to kind of waste money on big spends and try and build up these younger players, and they'll find, kind of a guy from anywhere, like, they've done it a number of times now in the past few years. And part of going into that as well was trying to find the right manager to kind of develop the youth. I think that's what they went for with Régis Lebris, getting him from Lorient in France. And I think it was kind of a surprise hiring at the time to get him before last season.
Yeah, I think the big difference now is that there's some structure to the club, and there's a strategy behind what they're trying to do, and it comes not just from the owner and chairman, but Christian Speakman, who's kind of the strategic guy, and he goes out and he did the same in Birmingham, and he's the reason that we got Joe Bellingham to Sunderland, because he knew him from when he was a kid, and we've to kind of address one of your other questions from earlier, other things you mentioned. We've got a North American branch of the Sunderland Supporters Club called NASA, strangely enough. And we have these monthly socials where we just talk about shit on the phone on a Sunday night. But every now and again, we'll get someone connected with the club on to be a guest. we had Speakman on a few years ago, and it was when, the start of this, and he was kind of outlining the 5-year plan that him and, Dreyfus had. And basically, he said that, we're going to try and follow the Brighton model. We're going to develop young players, then we're going to sell them, to keep the club sustainable and just have that kind of circular pattern, but become, an established Premier League club by the end of the 5 years. And we all sat on the other end of the line kind of thinking, I've heard it before. And, it's happened exactly the way you outlined, And I think that's the kind of structure that we've got now that, certainly hasn't been in place in all the time I've followed Sunderland.
Would be good if I had the mute button off, wouldn't it?
Would be nice.
It's
Since
the preseason for us all.
Yeah.
I could tell I was getting ready to go in. I was like, I didn't hear my breath. That might mean my mic is turned off. Anyways, you mentioned Bellingham, and there's been a couple of players that have already gotten their heads turned and moved on. But as you just explained, in the Brighton model, that's fine. Next man up, right? We'll be all right. Like, the point of having this great young talent is this great young talent is going to make us enough money to pay for us to be able to sustain ourselves as a club. Mm-hmm. So along with him, what are some other pieces that you lost? Because one of them is a very interesting one that may or may not have scored the game winner that promoted you to the league.
To Brighton, I think, as well.
Exactly.
Actually.
Yeah, I mean, to most Sunderland fans, that was a great bit of business because he'd only played half a dozen games. A lot of us had doubts about how good he could or could not be. So when Brighton came along and offered, 10, 11 million pounds, it seemed, and it still does, seem like great business, Mm-hmm. And I mean, I hope he does well, but I think he's still got a long way to go. I mean, he kicked it off well with that goal in the playoff final. But, the guy before him was Jack Clark, who, had his head turned. Ipswich came along, promoted to the Premier League, signed him for big money. And, he hardly played a game last season. Mm-hmm. And then he's back in the Championship, and his old buddies are up there in the Premier League,
Yeah. And, I mean, it's not a bad model to have as long as you have a good enough scouting and recruitment department, really. I mean, we've seen Brentford, longer than Brighton now, or as long as Brighton really, has done the exact same thing. Now, this summer is going to be a little different for them specifically.
Oh, yeah, because they're lost
selling
so
everyone,
pieces.
But they're richer than Real Madrid at the moment.
Well, one of the other things before you kind of get into the next question, because I know where you're going, but it's the one thing that Sunderland appears to be doing a lot like Brighton is, there's young players, but now when they're signing veterans, which they've signed some veterans, they're on the cheap and they're the right fit for the team. You think of like the Danny Welbeck and Adam Lallanas of the world, and Milner even did a little time with Brighton, like just the kind of right
James Milner was there. Yep. So, and so the reports are today, at least, is that you're in talks with agreed personal terms. Still have to agree the deal with Leverkusen, but Granit Xhaka, one of my old boys, to kind of anchor the midfield. Little sad, kind of emotional. I always like people to return to their boyhood clubs and all that kind of stuff. I always like that. It's always a nice kind of cap off to the career. So I was kind of sad that Jordan Henderson ended up signing for Brentford instead of Sunderland.
Right.
But Granit Xhaka, I think, has more to offer than Hendo at this stage of Henderson's career. So who else have you signed so far this season? Who's over the line? And how important do you think those couple of 2 or 3 players that are going to be?
Yeah, so I think that the first one kind of immediately after the season was Enzo Lefebvre, who was on loan at the end of last season. I think his was kind of surprising in the January window that we pulled that off and, got him on loan, but then also had the permanent option if we got promoted as well. Because it's really the first time they've kind of splashed the cash recently, because it was just over a £20 million option to buy. So after the promotion, his was kind of the first to fall. But really, and I think most Sunderland fans would say, we didn't really expect them to go out and immediately spend a ton of money. But they've kind of done the opposite of that and had a lot of players lined up and have ended up spending, I think, over 100 million at this point on I think 5 or 6 different players. kind of from different markets. And I think that's kind of the biggest surprise at this point.
Now, of course, along with Xhaka, Sunderland.
That's still not over the line,
right,
Xhaka, but I mean, it's a good piece of experience. I mean, especially his character arc at Arsenal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then how much he influenced that Leverkusen team is a great bit of experience to have and leadership to have in the middle of the park, to be completely fair.
Well, just going to say Sunderland needs to stock up on gold condoms because old Kyle Walker.
Uh-oh. That's right. No, didn't Kyle Walker go to Burnley, didn't he? I thought he signed for Burnley.
No, you're right. It's all right. My apologies.
I know there was talks of Sunderland, but I think he finally got signed by Burnley.
So JJ Watt got to personally put on gold condoms for
now, what I have to,
that's what he's gonna have to do.
What I have to wonder, and this may be the biggest diss at Sunderland, is very obviously now the women of Sunderland less than the women of Burnley, apparently.
Ooh.
If Kyle Walker chose.
Yeah.
And he's coming from Milan as well.
Yeah, that sounds like a problem. Definitely a problem.
That could be a big issue. Now, one kind of follow-up question to the signings that I have, and this will be my dig for the episode.
Go for it.
Is a lot of the players that you have signed, those younger players from Ligue 1 specifically, that's what got Newcastle relegated the last time. Does that make you nervous at all? After they spent all that money on like Demba Ba and all those players that at the time were 21-year-old, kind of French players, does that make you nervous?
I mean, it does, obviously, to some extent, because they've got no previous experience in the Premier League. We've seen a lot of players from, French-speaking countries, African countries, which a bunch of these, the young guys we've signed are from, haven't quite made it in the Premier League. So, that's definitely a concern. But, again, when we spoke to Speakman, they're very kind of data-driven. So they have, they've got loads and loads of players on their files who they're watching all the time. They're doing, all kinds of data analysis to kind of determine whether they believe those players will be the right fit for the club, for the team, and where the team's going to be playing, So right now, I mean, it hasn't proved to be troublesome. The young players have signed who've clearly proven not to be kind of worth it. They're getting rid of them now,
Yeah.
They had potential, but then it just hasn't materialized. So, I've got faith that the guys that they signed will come through,
Yeah.
We've still got some players who've, been at the club for a while, who are still young enough to get better. And whereas, again, there's a question about whether they're good enough for the Premier League, they've still got the time to make that step up, if they can.
Right. And the other thing about that, too, besides the Bundesliga, really, in terms of the closest to a ready-made fit for English football in general, would be the French league. It's fast, it's physical, it's the closest you could probably get. I mean, you look at some players that come over from Italy, from Spain, they take a season and a half to get adjusted to the pace and the physicality of the Premier League. So it's not a bad shout necessarily. I just wanted to get the Newcastle dig in.
I'm going to combine these next two together, and then we'll Graham, you'll do the last one, of course. And it sounds like we've kind of answered this question throughout our conversation. Is that obviously there is a smarter ownership in place. There is a very much a streamlined system of analytics, which we've seen for a lot of clubs. It fucking works, right? It works. You
go back to the Oakland Athletics 40 years ago. It works. Moneyball. I mean, that's what it is, essentially.
And in the general idea, and what you really need to have happen is just fucking survive. Stay up. Don't go down, right? That's the key thing you need to do. And how do you not make the mistakes that happened in 2017, which I think we've kind of answered, but please feel free to add more. And then how does the season start for you? Because we always say you ain't going to win the league at the start of the season, but you sure as hell can lose the league at the start of the season. So give us that kind of feel, guys.
Well, I think that definitely is going to apply to us because the first 6 games that we've got are all games that potentially should have a decent chance of winning. Kick off with West Ham at home, We've got
You don't even have to watch that one. That's got 3-0 Sunderland written all over it. Fuck me.
West Ham's one of them teams you're looking at going, I think we can finish above them.
definitely
Gotta finish above one. That's all you got to do. Finish above one of them.
And the big problem we're going to have is when it gets to December, January, most of those young guys that we've signed are African. So they're going to be shipping off.
That's
AFCON. Yeah.
So that's why the depth of the squad is going to be even more important this year. And that's one of the things that, we struggled with the last couple of seasons in the second half. Once a couple of key players got injuries, we didn't have other guys to come in and replace them. So, we really struggled. And that's when we kind of had our dips in form. And it's just lucky that at the end of last season, Labrie managed that by not bringing any of the guys back too early. And basically, once we knew we weren't catching either Burnley or Leeds, then we just played for the playoffs, and made sure we had everyone fit to give it, everything for those 2 games, and it worked.
Nice. And that also can make that start of the season that much more important. That's how Brentford stayed up the first time, remember? They started the season so brightly. They survived that kind of 4-month shitstorm where they didn't win hardly anything.
Had that crazy draw against Liverpool and the win against United and
us.
They was insane.
Yeah. Yep. So that could be that start of the season could really make or break it, because what you worry about is, and we talk about it all the time with the Premier League money and everything else, is that the gap between the have and have nots is growing, and you're starting to see that creep down. It used to be the top 4, now it's the top 6. And now you're starting to see those mid-table clubs, that gap growing to the bottom. Second season running, I believe it is, all 3 promoted teams got relegated again.
Yeah, it seems to be the 14. The other 14 tend to now be bigger, like how the top 6 are to the other 14. The other 14 are now to the bottom 3 and the top 3 of the championship.
Right, but that's part of the problem, right?
Yeah.
That's part of the issue. Nobody wants that to happen.
No.
That's how things like what's going on with Sheffield Wednesday right now, and some of those clubs of storied histories are falling apart and struggling to stay together. Is these multiple relegations, these terrible owners, is this, that, the other. But part of how you fix that is by having a competitive pyramid and being able to sustain it 6 years in the Prem, right? For instance, before you go back down or what have you. So hopefully that happens. Finally, do you see yourself staying up? And if so, where in the table do you finish? We looking at flirting, kind of like Dice did that one year with Conference League, or are we 17th and 39 points? We're good to go. What do you think,
first, Chris?
Yeah, I think if you would have asked us when we left Wembley, we'd just say happy to stay up. I think at this point, though, I think based on who we signed and who they've been rumored with, I think they're really giving it a go. So I'll say we'll stay up in somewhere between 10 to 15.
Very good.
Yeah, I would go along with that, definitely. I was worried. Obviously you always want to get promoted, but my initial thought was, well, even if we come back down and we've got the parachute payments and, we should be able to compete for a good few years to get back up again. Now I'm much more optimistic. I think the guys we've got in, and especially if we get Xhaka, I think that's a game changer. And, I can see us, flirting with a, mid to, just below mid-table quite easily. If things fall into place and these guys, half deliver what they really should.
Well, 50,000 plus seats in a stadium helps a lot too. Not being like walking through somebody's backyard to get into the park like you had with Luton Town. That's a massive difference.
Sunderland's average crowd last season was 9th in the country. That's not 9th in the championship. That's 9th in the country.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and the other piece to that too is West Ham haven't added much. Said they're going to be struggling. Now, Graham Potter's so highly rated, blah, 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 blah. We'll see what happens. Brentford has lost a lot of key pieces. They've only added 1 or 2, but the most important of which was Thomas Frank.
Yeah.
They now have an unproven first-team coach. Yeah. So that they make me worried now, that they could go down.
Wolves has done nothing with the money they've gotten.
Exactly. And how many pints has Vitor Pereira had this summer? You know, he famously loves his pints.
They haven't been winning, so there hasn't been pints. Remember, first wins, then pints.
So there's 3 potentials to take that 3rd spot, and then you just have to finish, you know, and then you hope Leeds, you know, Farka doesn't get the topics correct again, or I can't remember. And Burnley. And the last time Scott Parker came up was absolutely abhorrent.
Both times Scott Parker came up has not been very good.
Not to mention, if Newcastle lose Isaac, and they've got all these additional Champions League games, yeah, I'd be looking to finish above them as well.
Absolutely love it. All right, well, that is going to wrap it up, boys and girls. Mr. Graham, any parting words?
No, good to be back. Thank you both for joining us. It was a pleasure. I hope we didn't piss you off too much with too many Newcastle references, but we appreciate the banter, and hopefully you'll be back with us again throughout the season here and there.
Ken, you hinted at it already. You said NASA. Talk a little bit about stateside, you know, meetups, groups, things of that nature, where people who want to know more about Sunderland can find out more about Sunderland.
Yeah, so if you go to SEFC, NASA, that's and it's not just US, it's Canada as well. I think we've currently got about 300 members.
Nice.
You know, we have an online daily chat where we talk about everything Sunderland and, you know, everything that's happening. There's a good bunch of guys. We're kind of officially recognised by the club. So whenever, you know, we get to a playoff final, you know, we put our names forward, and, you know, luckily the last 2 I've been able to get tickets.
Oh, fantastic!
Nice.
Chris managed to come along too. So it is a good group to be part of. So if there's any Sunderland fans out there, you know, join up, and you know, you won't be sorry.
Excellent.
Nice.
Thank you again very, very much for the time, guys. Next up is going to be injury time, where we're going to actually recap the 3rd of July party.
Yep.
So should somebody want to find injury time, Sam, or help support the show more, how do they go about doing it?
Very easy, actually. It's patreon.com/DU Football Show. Sign up to that $5 tier, and you get all of our extra stuff.
A hoe is always going to hoe.
Come on.
Love it. Love it. Especially you with the flippy hair in the water and everything, too. It was pretty amazing.
Thanks, man.
Don't think I haven't forgotten that we're going to talk about that one. So
It's good. It's got over 500 views, I think.
till next week, everybody.
Good night.
Born in the land of Bowie, Maryland. Bred to be a fan of fucking Everton. Punch you in the eye and drink your rye. Sam Houston.
Sam Houston?
Arsenal fans have another Sam. AKA the fucking Gooner Graham. Smells of a lord. Looks great in shorts. Sam Graham, hey.
Sam Graham.
Fucking United! Fucking United! Hit the fucking mute button!